Welcome to the Rise Above Project. I'm your host, Joe Perroni. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, champion bodybuilder, and I've been a personal trainer for about 30 years. This podcast is about helping people with their emotional, spiritual, and physical fitness. I value strength, toughness, and truth. I despise complacency, the victim mentality, and following the herd. If you find my work to be valuable, please subscribe to my channel and tell a friend.
Today, I want to talk about the virtues of moral intelligence. I'm going to break this down into two sections today. The first section will be about moral intelligence from an academic and a philosophical perspective. The second section will be about moral intelligence from a practical perspective concerning the current state of affairs. And I want to do it this way because it's possible that some people may be offended when I analyze what's going on today in terms of values, virtues, and moral intelligence. And I want to give those people who are offended a fair chance to tune out after I discuss the basics. I want to acknowledge and recognize that some people have been extremely polarized in their points of view. But this, however, as you will see, is a symptom of lacking virtue and moral intelligence. So whenever I read the news, I overhear or participate in conversations or read Facebook posts, I'm reminded that this world needs to get reacquainted with character building and values and virtues again. Moral intelligence is the capacity to understand right from wrong. It can also be defined as the ability to do the right thing at the right time for the right reasons. Aristotle is arguably the most influential thinker on the subject of virtue and moral intelligence. Aristotle wrote Nichomachean Ethics about 400 years BC. He wrote it as a guide for his son, Nichomachus, just in case he didn't live long enough to raise him properly. Aristotle believed that the meaning and purpose of life is to reach a state of eudaimonia. Eudaimonia, as conceived by Aristotle, means a person's state of excellence characterized by objective flourishing across a lifetime and brought about by the active demonstration of moral virtue, practical wisdom, and rationality. Aristotle believed that each individual should strive to be the best person that they could be. Eudaimonia cannot be achieved with money, status, group affiliation, or any type of external validation. The closest translation of eudaimonia in English are the words happiness and well-being. Most of the research concerning virtues and moral intelligence suggests that humans are born with at least some degree of morality. This is because humans have survived in part due to being able to stay emotionally, socially, and physically connected to other people. In the past, lacking morals or virtue would cause that person to be rejected and shunned. At the Yale Infant Cognition Center and at Harvard University, babies as young as 6 to 10 months old have displayed altruism, sympathy, and are understanding of other people's goals. They are natural helpers and overwhelmingly prefer good guys over bad guys in morality tests. In addition, young children tend to help and share with others without being told. However, it is believed that moral intelligence is more ability-based rather than trait-based, or derived more from nurture and less from nature. Therefore, moral intelligence is believed to be a skill that can be perfected over time with consistent repetitive modeling and practice. Aristotle knew that being a role model was important for his son, and he strived to create a blueprint for his son if and when he was not going to be in his life anymore. But what if somebody doesn't have any healthy role models in their family? Or they live in an environment where they don't know or see any good role models? Aristotle believed that people in general knew the difference between right and wrong, success and failure, and what or who inspires them. With this knowledge, one could choose a role model of their choice. Role models don't have to be family members or anyone that you know personally. They don't even have to be alive. Jimi Hendrix is still a role model for many guitar players, and he died about 50 years ago. A role model could be anyone that can offer positive influence, life lessons, and a goal to reach. Moral intelligence refers to the ability to embrace an ethically oriented approach while being informed by one's virtues and values. Moral intelligence is thought to be the central intelligence, or an independent form of intelligence apart from emotional and cognitive intelligence. For example, cognitive intelligence can help somebody create a bomb, but moral intelligence will help someone to decipher whether to use it or not. Scholars have explored and attempted to create pillars that will increase the chances that moral intelligence will be achieved. I will briefly summarize two contemporary models which are utilized to align moral intelligence with actions and behaviors. Lennox and Keel identified four competencies of moral intelligence, and these are integrity, responsibility, compassion, and forgiveness. And to reiterate, a person in this model can have cognitive intelligence and or emotional intelligence, but if decision making is not informed with integrity, responsibility, compassion, or forgiveness, then the decisions are just as likely to be evil as they are good, or to be hurtful rather than helpful. Dr. Michelle Borba's model identifies 7 essential virtues of moral intelligence, and these are empathy, conscience, self-control, respect, kindness, tolerance, and fairness. Dr. Borba's work centers primarily around raising moral children, but I do believe that adults could use a refresher course on what these virtues are to be better citizens and to be better parents, especially because Dr. Borba, as well as Dr. Lennox and Dr. Keel, all agree with Aristotle that the best way to teach values, virtues, and moral intelligence is by being a role model. As the saying goes, you never know who's watching. Everyone who lives with moral intelligence can be a role model to their children, if they have children, but they can also be positive role models for society. Many people have a propensity to lose their way as they get older due to negative experiences and losses, which may lead to bitterness. Nevertheless, it is still important to instill proper values and virtues in children before the rigors of life take hold of them. Studies tell us that one's core beliefs and values align them with certain religions or political parties more often than religions or political parties shape and mold their morals and values. The first essential virtue of moral intelligence is empathy. Empathy is the capacity for an individual to identify with another finite creature's issues, situations, and feelings. But this shouldn't be confused with sympathy. A sympathetic person feels sorry and pity for others instead of taking action to help. An empathetic person develops a deep sensitivity toward others' feelings, and they can also learn to appreciate themselves. The second virtue of moral intelligence is conscience. Having a conscience means knowing the right and decent way to act and then following through. Any deviation from this will probably produce guilt. The third virtue of moral intelligence is self-control. Self-control is the practice of training the mind by staying in control by regulating and processing thoughts and feelings in a productive manner. The fourth virtue of moral intelligence is respect. Respect is emblematic of character and is emphasized by having equal respect for authority and for those who do not have great influence. People who are respectful value others by treating them in a courteous and considerate manner. The fifth virtue of moral intelligence is kindness. Kindness is demonstrating concern about the welfare and the feelings of others. Kindness also includes acknowledging and accepting that despite variations in race, creed, and culture, human beings have the same basic needs. The sixth virtue of moral intelligence is tolerance, although personally I prefer the word acceptance. Those who practice the virtue of tolerance or acceptance appreciate diversity. They don't tolerate prejudice, and they counter harmful stereotypes. In addition, a tolerant person respects the rights and dignity of all people, not just the people who they agree with. The seventh virtue of moral intelligence is fairness. Fairness is choosing to be open minded and to act in a just and fair way. Aristotle said that prudence is the mother of all virtues because all of the virtues are governed by prudence. Prudence is associated with practical wisdom and insight. Aristotle taught that the golden mean was the virtuous goal and that extremes were to be avoided. For example, the golden mean of courage is the virtue between the polars of cowardice and recklessness. The golden mean of loyalty is the virtue between the polars of fickleness and blind allegiance. Speaking of blind allegiance, let's take a look at how modern society is navigating through the world of virtue and moral intelligence and ethics. So this is part 2. So if you are easily offended, now would be a good time to switch to a different program or just turn it off. Other than blind allegiance to a group pushing fossil fuels and an uneducated president who says global climate change is a hoax, why would a group of people deny global climate change exists when 97% of scientists agree that it does? Is there any wisdom in not having any knowledge of a subject, yet insisting on disagreeing with almost all of the world's experts in the field? What would Aristotle say about that? And where is the morality in a group of people believing that a child is better off being a ward of the state rather than being adopted by a same-sex couple? People who believe that a child being a ward of the state is preferable to being raised and loved by a same-sex couple are falling way short of almost all of the 7 virtues of moral intelligence. The bar for morality and virtue seems to be getting lower every single day. The fact that President Donald Trump has been reported to have said close to 16,000 lies since he has been in office has not deterred any of his supporters. Many actually respect him even more for his lying, for his blaming, and acting like a victim. Trump has also been bankrupt 6 times, sued over 4,000 times. His university was found to be fraudulent, and his foundation was shut down for fraud. What would Aristotle say about his ethics? As ironic as it may sound, Trump was elected in part to bring back some decency and to rid the government of corruption. And yet, the previous administration had 0 charges, 0 indictments, and 0 prison sentences. The Trump administration, in less than 4 years, has 215 charges, 38 indictments, 6 prison sentences, and counting. Facts such as these would be overwhelmingly negative for Trump in years past. But it appears that the moral code that our ancestors believed in is now under attack. The president does show emotional intelligence by being able to understand his followers. He famously said, quote, "I could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and I wouldn't lose any support," unquote. And he's probably correct in this assessment. These same people believe wholeheartedly that the economy is doing great since Trump has taken office, because he says it is. But in the last 35 months of Obama's administration, the Federal Reserve Bank reports an average of 227,400 job gains per month compared to Trump's 191,100 jobs per month for his first 35 months. So that's about 40,000 jobs less, not more. The stock market rose 60% during Obama's first term, 90% for his second term, and 150% overall. The stock market has risen 46% under Trump, which is excellent, but he is still underperforming compared to Obama. But let's also mention that Obama performed better, but he also did it without giving tax breaks to big corporations, without exploding the national debt, and without stripping regulations which were enacted to fight against public health, safety, and environmental disasters. The unemployment rate is at historic lows, but it was trending down for 7 years before Trump even took office. So what type of person takes credit for positive results, even if those results were not caused by him? And the better question is why or how so many people can blindly support a person with almost a total and complete lack of moral decency, virtue, character, and ethics. Trump hasn't lost any support among his followers since he has been impeached. These people believe he should be left alone because he didn't do anything wrong. Is this based on facts or blind allegiance? And in what world is someone acting innocent if they are withholding 71 documents, preventing 12 witnesses from testifying, and they're also threatening witnesses? At the very least, moral people would stand up and demand that the evidence be heard. I have never heard, ever, of any human being anywhere ever wanting to crush evidence if it would exonerate them of wrongdoing. Many people voted for Trump and continue to have unwavering support because of his stance on deporting illegal aliens. And Trump has kept his promise by deporting about 800,000 people in 3 years. But did he actually keep his promise? And is this an improvement? Because under Obama, 1.18 million people were deported in his first 3 years, which is about 400,000 more people than Trump. In addition, Obama deported 410,000 people in 2012 alone, while Trump has never deported more than 260,000 people in a single year. So why is Obama more successful at deportations and yet not being given any credit by Trump's supporters? Because I thought his supporters actually cared about this issue. So here is the inconvenient truth. Obama had a very streamlined approach by targeting and deporting those who were actually illegal and those who had criminal records. Trump is casting a wide net by finding reasons to deport those with Hispanic names and those who don't have white skin. Many of these cases end up being bogged down in the courts because they actually are American citizens. I think everyone is entitled to their own opinion, of course, but it seems obvious that although Obama was better at deporting illegal aliens than Trump, he still maintains unwavering support from his fans. Because Trump supporters are energized by his racist rhetoric. I think it's interesting to note that there has been a resurgence of pro-Confederate, white supremacist, and fascist ideology. These ideologies were largely defeated in the Civil War between 1861 and 1865 and World War II between 1939 and 1945. But now we are fighting them again. We need moral intelligence now more than ever before. There needs to be some way to fight back against the wave of sadistic, destructive behaviors and mindsets that are now leading the charge toward willful ignorance, anti-science, a destruction of morality, and a blame your neighbor instead of love your neighbor type of mentality. I think I've seen enough. It's time to fight back and to start expecting people to act from a position of virtue, character, moral intelligence, and ethics. And let it start with ourselves and be a role model for our children and for society. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I am Joseph Perroni from the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.